Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. More evidence that banksters should go to jail. The Department of Housing and Urban Development just wrapped up an investigation into the nation's 5 largest mortgage companies, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Ally Financial. What the agency found is that those banks routinely lied about how much foreclosed homes were worth when they were getting reimbursed for those loans by the government, a practice that generated huge profits for the banks by swindling taxpayers. This is just the latest report to uncover crimes by banksters. It was also discovered earlier this year that banks made as much as $30 billion thanks to illegal foreclosure practices, like kicking people out of their homes who didn't deserve to be. All of these reports have been handed over to the Department of Justice, yet nothing has been done to hold the banksters accountable. It seems like the only way banksters go to jail nowadays is if they try to rape a hotel maid. When will we once again start throwing banksters in jail for fraud and fraud alone, like Reagan did with the S&L banksters? Republicans in South Carolina are the latest gang to screw over the unemployed, following in the footsteps of Florida, Michigan, and Missouri and South Carolina, which is on the verge of cutting unemployment benefits from 26 weeks to just 20 weeks. Currently, South Carolina has unemployment rating bordering around 10%. But that's how right-wingers balance budgets nowadays. Target the most vulnerable and the people who are least likely to make campaign contributions. Until the unemployed get lobbyists or rise up in mass like the bonus army that occupied the White House lawn in the 1930s, they'll keep getting screwed. In the best of the rest of the news, for those who say that torturing Khalid Sheikh Mohammed led us to finding bin Laden, a former Bush speechwriter agrees with John McCain that they're uninformed and stupid. Mark Thiessen confirmed that KSM routinely mocked his interrogators who were waterboarding him, often holding up his fingers to count down the 40 seconds that he knew was the maximum amount of time they could drown him in a single session. KSM was put through this kind of torture 183 times with no credible information coming out of it. So now will these pathetic torture apologists shut up? And will the administration begin putting the Bush war crimes cabal on trial? The Indiana Supreme Court reversed a centuries-old ruling on unlawful police entry. Now people in that state do not have the right to keep police officers from entering their home without a search warrant or without even cause. The case at hand focused on a man who shoved a police officer who walked into his home without a warrant or consent. The man was then stun-gunned and arrested. The court ruled 3-2 that the officers acted appropriately and it didn't violate the Fourth Amendment, which explicitly says that we have the right to be secure in our homes unless a warrant is issued based on sworn testimony that we're committing a crime. Slowly but surely, courts around the nation are rolling back our rights, in this case, our right to privacy in our own home. At the same time, courts are handing over more and more rights to giant corporations and misbehaving police officers. Strange times we live in. Banksters are pushing back against the newly created Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, an agency whose sole purpose is to make sure the big banks aren't screwing you and me. And there's one provision in particular the banks are trying to shoot down, a provision that puts complaints against banks on an online public database. Banksters, of course, want to keep allegations of their crimes secret, but advocates of consumer protections disagree, saying that an online database will allow consumers to make informed decisions about where they do their banking based on what other consumers have experienced. And, of course, if a bank is acting appropriately, then it should have nothing to worry about. But as we all know, lately banks have not been acting appropriately. That's why the Republican Party is joining with their bankster funders to try to kill off the entire Consumer Financial Protection Bureau altogether. Europe is taking a hardline stance against wireless technology. The Council of Europe Committee released a report arguing for immediate action to curb the risks of wireless devices causing brain cancer in kids. The report advises nations to ban cell phones and wireless computers from classrooms, introduce clear labeling on wireless devices spelling out the health risks, and invest in research in less dangerous antennas. The report cites the late recognition of other dangers like asbestos, lead, and tobacco, and urges public health officials to not make the same mistakes again with wireless technology. While the Council of Europe has no real power to enforce new laws, it does strongly influence policy. Donald Trump is officially out of the race minutes after NBC released a casting call for Celebrity Apprentice, including a possible replacement for Trump. The real estate oligarch and reality TV star announced yesterday he's really not running for president. In a statement, Trump said, "Business is my greatest passion, and I'm not ready to leave the private sector." And with that, Trump will return to his day job, which, like many corporate CEOs nowadays, includes enthusiastically firing people for a living. What a great role model, huh? It's just a matter of time before Trump goes all the way and airs his TV show from India, calling it The Outsourced Apprentice. Crazy alert. Watermelon minefield. Acres of watermelon fields in eastern China have erupted, spewing watermelon-y masses far and wide. To make extra money for their watermelons, farmers sprayed their crops with growth chemicals. Unfortunately, they applied too much. 115 acres of watermelons have self-detonated. That growth chemical, by the way, known as 4-chlorphenuron, is also legal in the U.S. So next time you bring home a watermelon, beware of spontaneous combustion. And that's the way it is today, Tuesday, May 17th, 2011. I'm Thom Hartmann on the news.